And it adds, I think the whole movie too just has that, like, you're watching it and you're like, this is so goofy, man. You know what I mean? And then, but like all of a sudden you're 20, you're at the end and you're like, I enjoyed that. You know what I mean? Like that's what most
Yeah.
people said. They were like, oh man, this is like kind of cheesy. And then they were like, oh man, this is so goofy. What's going on? And then by the end, they're like, oh, that was fun to watch. Like that was a good 20 minutes that I just spent watching that.
All right, guys, welcome back to Check the Candy. I am Taylor. This is John, Chris, and tonight we're going to be talking about John's technically second movie he's ever made,
True,
Worm.
true.
And we're gonna be doing like a little bit of behind the scenes, just telling us about the film, and we have some questions that we're gonna ask him. That way, if you guys need to know anything or want to know anything, hopefully we ask him and he answers. So,
I
all
hope so.
right, yeah, let's start off with you, Chris. You got any questions you want to ask him?
Do. So, John, how long did it take you to film your short film?
Oh
Worm.
wow. If you're talking like full time,
Yeah.
like from start to finish, a few months probably,
Yeah.
probably like 4 months because I mean the movie, I mean the film itself is like I don't know, I think it's like a little over 17 minutes,
Mhm.
which doesn't seem like a lot of time. But we were in the middle of doing me and Matt, who stars in the movie with me, and also co-wrote it with me and stuff like that, and directed it with me. We were doing the Home of Horror podcast, and which I'm still jumping back on. He's not no longer doing it, but we're obviously still really good friends. But we were doing the podcast at the same time we were filming. Um, Worm was kind of like a startup for to see if we wanted to actually put money towards anything, if we had any idea, if we wanted to like make something cooler, but we wanted to give it a go and see if we could make something kind of cheap, basically no budget. And if it came out cool, we were gonna, invest in some equipment and stuff like that. So we were really filming our episodes for the podcast, and then after we would film for like 2 or 3 hours, and then by the time it was ending and we were getting to those last couple scenes, I mean we were filming like all night trying to get it like as perfect as we could. So it probably took overall like 4 months to film, and then like I don't know, maybe a month to edit.
It's crazy to think it actually takes 4 months to make a 17-minute movie. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and I don't think that's like standard. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
if you were dead set on making a a short film, that it could, you could probably shoot it in a couple of days. Um, and if you had everything storyboarded out, and like we had a script for this, it was about 10 pages. Um, we followed the concept of the script rather than word for word. So if you had everything set up, storyboarded out, knew exactly when you were going to film, all that kind of stuff, I don't think it would take you nearly as long, obviously. But just on the fly and kind of working on it behind the scenes of the podcast is probably why it took way longer.
Makes sense. That's
Yeah,
cool,
because
though.
you're talking, I mean, we'd film the podcast at 8 o'clock at night, get done by 10:30, start filming
Oh,
the movie, you know what I mean? So we'd have 1 or 2 hours before I'd have to drive, and take a 20-minute drive home. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that answered really one of my questions. So my first question was, how long is the movie, and then were you in it? Um, I didn't know if you were actually in it, John.
I was. I actually was, yes. One of the three characters, there are four characters technically that are in it. But yeah, yeah, but that's a good question because I actually played Henry Guild most of the time as well. Um, which is cool. And that was cool to learn because you could to be able to see if people could tell the difference, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that was cool. It was like, hey, can I kind of disguise myself as this other character and still play this other character? Which happens a few times with a few actors in my new movie coming out. So that was a good kind of trial run of like, could I pull that off where I don't have access to a bunch of actors, I don't have access to pay anybody really. So it was just kind of a cool learning experience. Can we double up and go Mia Goth on it and play like, can I play the hero and the villain type of thing?
Yeah. I do have one other one before Chris asks another one too, because I feel like we're gonna ask relatively the same questions.
Yeah.
Uh, where where are the worms real? Did you get them somewhere? Where are they
Um,
fake?
yeah. So what's funny is we tried, obviously the story's based on like the hallucinogenic tequila worm, which is like a folklore, right? It was kind of a way it was propaganda for tequila companies to like sell their tequila. Like when you eat a tequila worm, it doesn't actually make you hallucinate. It's just something that's kind of tradition. I mean, maybe there's something out there that gets you a little more fucked up, like same thing with like wormwood in malort and absinthe. There's that folklore that it gets you. So I mean, maybe some of them have like some sort of maybe they're a little poisonous, but they don't really get you fucked up. So it's all based on that folklore of being hallucinogenic like properties in the worm. And we tried to get tequila with the worm in it. We couldn't find it anywhere because we were actually going to shoot that bitch and find out for ourselves. But what I did was basically just buy, I was going to use gummy worms and cut them up because it's just a quick shot of the worms, or it was just going to be a quick shot of the worm in the shot glasses for the movie. Um, but I was like, it's just not good enough. So I actually went to the pet store and I bought like worm meal, like those little things you feed like fucking, I don't know, fucking snakes and shit like that. You know what I mean? So they were real.
Yeah.
Obviously they were dead and dried out and everything. And we put them in the shots to take and we just cut the shot to not actually swallow them. We were going to, but it says right on the package, like, do not consume these because they're like dried out and sprayed with fucking weird chemicals and shit. So like we were like, oh, we better not. So they are technically real worms, but it led to some cool scenes like that bathroom scene that's playing behind you right now, Chris.
Yeah, dude, there's so much blood in that sink. It's so fucking
Yeah,
cool.
and like those are real worms that you can see about to be behind you right now. Like those are all the worm, yeah, the mealworms. That's a cool shot. That was one of my favorites to shoot. I think we shot that. That was one of our first scenes we shot actually to see if we could make the blood look cool on screen.
Well, it did. It did. It looked really that is probably my favorite part of it. Just simply because of the worms. The worms are fucking cool as shit to me.
Yeah, they look creepy in that. They look creepy in that sink. Like they're kind of moving around just in the pool of blood anyway. So it like kind of made it look like they were kind of moving and stuff. And Matt had the brilliant of idea. He kind of improvised, just sticking his hand in it and like pulling some of the worms out and his hands shaking. Yeah, that was a pretty gross scene. It came out really cool.
All right, Chris, do you have another question?
I do. So how much blood did you use for it? There's some pretty gnarly scenes with some
Yeah,
splatter.
we use quite a bit of blood, man, and some of it's off screen actually. More than you would think because I'd probably say we used maybe four or 5 gallons.
Oh wow, for sure.
Yeah, because a lot of it was like getting ready for scenes too, where we had already shot the initial, when Matt gets stabbed or whatever, and then we'd have to cover him after to kind of reshoot some of the scene, um, making those the fake props and stuff we had to cover in blood, reshooting some scenes we had to do. So um, I'd say on screen there's probably like 2 gallons of blood, and then off screen we used about 5 probably because some scenes didn't make it in either that came out kind of shitty that we used a shit ton of blood on and had to reshoot those. So yeah, it added up in the end for sure.
That's a good
That
amount
was
of blood.
another one of my questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take your question.
No. That was another one. Yeah, so you're good.
Only so many you can ask for a 20-minute movie, I get it.
Well, it's actually 17 minutes and some odd minutes,
It's true.
seconds, whatever.
Approximately 17 something, yeah.
So, what'd you use for guts?
So for the intestines, I used paper towel and wrapped it in saran wrap. So we just soaked the paper towel in blood. Actually, you know what we did? That's wrong. we took brown nylon socks and stuffed them with tissue paper.
That's actually really
Okay.
great. I like that.
Stapled them together, let them sit in a pool of blood. That was basically it. And I would say that's probably the one scene where like it looks pretty cheesy. You know what I mean? Like we didn't really know what to do for that scene. I didn't know how to make anything that was like could keep it at that $100 budget, you know. But it came out all right. Like the brown kind of added to it. When I was color grading the movie, I kind of had to enhance the red of it, like the red hue of it a little bit to make it look more red. If you see like the raw footage, it's like just fucking brown. It like the blood wouldn't soak in. It wouldn't take over that brown. You know what I mean?
Well, I do have to say that it did look more realistic than Jason Takes Manhattan whenever he stabs her on the boat. Those stupid, like, those dumbass looking guts come out and it's like
Yeah.
cords.
Yeah, it's
Looks
weird
like
Looks
looking.
terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the imagination, if you do something kind of simple, the imagination will let you run a little bit, you know. And like I said, the $100 budget, there's only so much you can do, and we didn't want to go over that because it was just a cooler story to be like, hey, this
Yeah.
was only made for a certain amount. Like we didn't want to put too much into it. What can we get away with? What can we do for $100? You know, and that was one of those things that we really had to. I wasn't going to go out and buy fake intestines from Spirit Halloween or anything like that. Like I was going to, you know, make them myself. So that's what we did. Came out all
Okay.
right.
So, Chris, I think you have another one.
I do. So how is it playing multiple roles, John? I see that you were the newscaster on the radio at the very end too.
Yeah, that's funny you caught that. Yeah, that was my voice. Yeah, I put that through like a telephone style radio effect and just recorded myself and tried to give myself like that type of newscast voice, you know what I mean? To kind of trick. We didn't really have anybody to do it, and I just wrote that at the very end to put in there. That credit scene came in at the last minute. That wasn't written into the script to begin with, but I kind of wanted to leave the door open because, you know, the story is all about this killer, but at the same time, it's not, right? Like if you're watching this, hopefully you've seen the movie. You know, it's basically all about guilt, right? So it's all about Matt, you know, he's broken up with his girlfriend or whatever. That's what my character thinks. We go over, I try to loosen him up, have a good time. We take these hallucinogenic tequila worms, and anybody who's done any hallucinogenic drugs understand that if you're not in a good place, the trip's probably not going to go well. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of the whole story where I'm trying to, you know, cheer him up by doing this drug, these worms. But at the same time, there's this killer on the loose for real, right? But then you find out at the end of the movie that there was never actually a killer in the apartment. It was all part of the hallucination because stuff like that pops into your head when you're, you know, if you're on a trip, like, you know, things in your real life will manifest themselves or whatever, you know what I mean? So that was kind of the idea. And Matt's guilt was playing on him and he saw everybody dying. And then at the very end, we realized that obviously he killed his girlfriend. So he was really guilty about it. So that's why it kind of played into his trip. And then the credit scene was the idea of saying, hey, if we want to do a second one, we got to make sure people understand that there was two parts to this, you know, that there was Henry Guild killing and he wasn't really there, but there really is a Henry Guild out there. So it kind of, but it's left up to a little bit of interpretation. I didn't want to like spell it out for everybody. So that end scene was kind of like, hey, there really is a killer on the loose, by the way. And so that was just kind of the idea for the credit to let people know that he really is out there. Did they imagine it? Yep. Is he out there? Yes, as well. So kind of a, you know, a little bit of a play on a classic tale of a slasher, you know.
Very cool, man. Very cool. I love that ending scene where he's like walking out of the barn doors.
Yeah. And he grabs another mask. You know, that was an idea Matt had of maybe he doesn't have the same mask, you know what I mean? But then after we made it and after we watch it so many times, like the mask is just so legendary to me now that just because it's one of my first characters, you know what I mean? But Yeah, and that's the whole play on Henry Guild's name as well. His last name is Guild, Guild. And if you notice in that scene at the one of the scenes in the beginning, I say, "Do you think Gildy has been caught yet?" We call him Gildy, which is kind of a play on guilty, guild
Uh,
playing on guilt. That's why if you look at the tagline of the movie on the poster, it's nothing kills like a guilty conscience. Because
that's cool.
really, Matt's done the killing for real, and then this guy's last name is Guild, kind of just playing on the whole idea.
That's actually really sweet. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Very cool. Um, the tongue. Did you buy the tongue? Did you make
Yeah,
it?
no, I bought the tongue. I ordered it offline. It came with two different tongues, and it was yeah, it was just a prop. I had no other way to kind of rip a tongue out, you know what I mean? So that was the one thing where I was like, okay, I could spend, I think they were like $10 for two. And so yeah, that was one of the things that I actually spent besides the mask on bringing that in and just kind of using that as a prop because I like the idea of the tongue getting ripped out. It was like, because it fits into the story of Matt kind of finding the tongue, realizing I'm gone. So the tongue was kind of necessary because I didn't really know how to make anything like that really look like a tongue. If I just stuck something red in my mouth, it just wouldn't have worked. So I said, you know what? We'll take the $10 and buy a fake tongue and it'll look cooler.
Yeah, I
All
did.
right,
It looked really cool. I liked it. Go ahead, Chris. You got another question.
I do. So Katie, who is Matt's girlfriend, is
Mhm.
that your wife?
Yep, that was my wife. Yeah, I just needed a girl and she said she'd do it to show that kind of flashback scenes that we did all in black and white, you know what I mean? And just to kind of give it that effect of being dreamlike or a past memory, you know what I mean? Yeah, and that was my wife.
That's
So
cool.
so technically she's the fourth character, you know what I mean? Well, technically there's one at the end, my buddy played the guy who died in the end credits as well. So
Yes.
I guess technically five, but if you want to say it's part of the actual runtime of the movie, not exactly. So, but
Okay.
yeah, yeah, very minimal characters. But yeah, she played Katie. And what's funny is Matt's girlfriend now's name is Katie. So, which is really weird, and that came to be like months later after we filmed the movie. So kind of ironic, but
That's kind of
That's
funny.
cool.
yeah.
That's a
tell you
good
guys
story. Yeah, I do. So where did you film? Whose place was that?
That was Matt's apartment. So that was his building. He's lived in there. His brother lives below him. So like we kind of had free reign to use the hallways and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There wasn't really much noise complaint or anything like that to worry about. So we kind of had free range to use that entire floor. Um, and yeah, that's where we did the podcast. We used to have the studio set up at his house. So we would just get done filming, go out into the apartment. Nothing. We didn't set up any props. There was no staging. All of that was just his normal apartment, which kind of made it cooler. Gave it that New England, Maine feel with like the Patriots shit everywhere. And like that's, he's a huge Patriots fan. So that stuff's everywhere. That was all real. Nothing was really placed besides a cross behind him. We had placed a cross in the red lights behind him where he was sitting to just kind of symbolize maybe something sinister is going on. But
Okay.
that was the only thing that was placed.
Yeah.
All
So
the
I wrote
alcohol,
down
all the alcohol was real. Everything
I
we were
figured that was
doing.
me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we never took a fake sip of alcohol, so that was fun too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I wrote down where did you film? Whose place was this? Football sucks, hockey rules. Just because
Yeah.
there's so much fucking Patriot
Oh
stuff
yeah,
there.
it's
I was just
everywhere.
like, this makes me gag.
Yeah,
But
he's a huge Patriots fan. I'm a pretty big Patriots fan, but he's a fucking massive Patriots fan. So yeah, he has that shit everywhere. And if the movie itself is on Troma Now, the Troma Now app, and someone had commented on it. They commented, um, spoiler alert, the killer is Tom Brady, just because
That's
there's
funny.
just Patriot shit everywhere, which I thought was pretty funny.
It's cool how you created the mask, how you like just finagled it.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome, dude. So rad.
Yeah, like we didn't have the budget or time to like create something like wild. So we were like, hey, we gotta kind of, you know, improvise here. And we did. And it even throughout the whole film, we were like, man, I don't know if this is exactly how I wanted him to look. I wanted him to look scarier and all this stuff. But then you see the finished project and it just kind of starts to grow on you a little bit. Even the name, I didn't love the name at first, but I liked the play on words. And then it just kind of starts to grow on you. So I think there's something to that too, where like nothing that you write or start to tell like really has any substance to it or identity. It's after you're done, after you've gone through the experience of making it, and after people have watched it, that's when it starts to have an identity. Like the character starts to have an identity more, and that may be different obviously when you have a bunch of fucking, you know, when you have a bunch of money and you can make something sick and exactly how you want, then it's a different story. But when you're not working with much, I mean, that's where the character gets identity. When you have experience with it, when you've been working with it, and then once people see it and they know it as that character, you know.
Yeah.
So, what if we see a Worm 2? Is it going to happen or what?
I would really like to, man. Yeah, I would really, really like to. You know, I have some ideas, so that's not something I don't think I would ever do a full movie of him. I think I'll keep it to. I would like to do like a trilogy where the first one is just kind of that background story that he gets out, um, and then really like go into a whole nother story of Henry himself, and it's not you know, it's not a trip. He's really there. You know what I mean? So I have some ideas, um, and yeah, I would really like to do that. I just want to finish this movie up first, kill this movie that we're doing right now, and then you know, I got some ideas for it, and I got some things going on with some other shit too. So, yeah, definitely.
Well, I have I have one more question for you, real quick. It's more of a statement
Yeah.
question thing that I liked about the movie. I wrote what I liked, and I liked a lot of it, but this is just one that I thought was funny. After the shot you guys take together, Matt staring at the picture of Jesus, just looking at it was freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
And then this is my question. It pans to you, and did you mean to look like a swimsuit model coming up out of the water,
Oh, and I'm just
or is
like,
that just natural?
yeah, that was actually something where when I said the booze was real, I mean it was real. We really like I was really sweating that much, and like we were just partying at that point. We were like, we got this whole montage of like us raging, you know what I mean? So let's just kind of set up the camera and like film ourselves taking shots and whatever. Like you see at one point we're using a blender. Like our buddy was there, like actually making like fucking mudslides and shit. So, like we were drinking those. So that scene of when it cuts to me of me like going like this, I was really just like taking my hat off and I was like, whoo, I was like I was like wiping the sweat.
That's
So it
awesome.
just kind of came out like that. And I like went through all that footage and like slowed everything down and made it trippy and shit. And but yeah, it wasn't on purpose, but that's how it came out for sure. That whole part was like wild, man. That that took like hours to film because we were just having fun and basically having a party. We had people over. We just made sure they weren't in any of the shots when we were filming and stuff. But yeah, that was all like kind of real life.
Well, I tell you one thing: if you don't end up not having a career in movies, you definitely have one in supermodel or something like that, because that slow mo was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it was just like the hair too. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
beautiful. I loved it.
Yeah, it was
But
pretty
those two
awesome.
parts, those two
Yeah.
parts, him just sitting there looking at the Jesus, I just thought that was great.
Yeah, that was like really fun that was a really fun part to edit too and put together. I was laughing we had a bunch of other shit we could have thrown in there too. I mean, we could have had the length of the movie in just that party sequence. Like 17 minutes could have just been the whole party, and then obviously it would have just dragged on. So I cut it down to, I don't know, 25 seconds or something, but just to kind of get the point across. But we had a bunch of hilarious shit like that we could have thrown in, but those were like the prominent, like pretty funny parts that kind of got the point across that we were like getting fucked up. You know what I mean? The worms were kicking in and shit. So yeah, it was awesome, man. It was a fun experience.
Well, it's definitely it's a good idea. It's a unique short film. It's brainy. You thought about it and you
Oh,
put
for
some
sure.
work into it. You know, the acting wasn't terrible. Honestly, nothing
Yeah,
for this type of film. I thought it was a good movie. Like
yeah,
it was short and sweet, to the point. You got it, and I do agree with you. I think you should do a trilogy, but I think you should keep them all about 20 minutes.
right, right. I think
Uh,
so too.
just because it'd be cool. It'd just be cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Real quick, Chris, do you have anything else you want to say?
I do. So you did all the score and all the music in it, right?
I did, yes. Yep. Yeah, a lot of it was samples that I used, cut up, chopped up, put beats to. The montage party scene, that whole song I made.
That's
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, and that wasn't necessarily made specifically for Worm, but I produced music for 10 years, so that was a song that I had created probably 5 years prior. And so I was going through my kind of discography of everything that I had produced, back in the day, and put that whole montage together with that. And then the rest of the score was a lot of finding samples and chopping them up and putting a little bit of beats to them, like the song that's in it, that old school love you. You like I found that sample and chopped it up and made it like loop and shit, and kind of made a song out of it. And which was perfect because it kind of played towards Matt's character feeling guilty about his girlfriend. He loved her, he wanted her, but he had killed her. You know what I mean? So it kind of all came together fairly well. So the score was really important, and it wasn't easy. It took a long time. Um, Something I think I still could do better on, but it worked. It worked really well. So yeah, yeah. In short answer, yes, I did all that.
the score is perfect,
Cool.
dude. You did a great job on that. From like the music to the score, fit beyond perfect. It was great.
I appreciate that, dude.
It really did. It all went the montage, the party montage. I just love the whole fucking scene.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
It's a lot
So
of
good.
fun.
And it adds,
Uh,
I think the whole movie too just has that, like, you're watching it and you're like, this is so goofy, man. You know what I mean? And then, but like all of a sudden you're 20, you're at the end and you're like, I enjoyed that. You know what I mean? Like that's what most
yeah,
people said. They were like, oh man, this is like kind of cheesy. And then they were like, oh man, this is so goofy. What's going on? And then by the end, they're like, oh, that was fun to watch. Like that was a good 20 minutes that I just spent watching that. And we had a lot of people say, I watched it again. I watched it again. I watched it again. And like, so that's all you want to hear, I guess, as a filmmaker or a writer. You want people to just enjoy it no matter
yeah.
what it is, or no matter what. And I'm sure there's people that didn't enjoy it, which is totally fine. I totally understand that people are looking for different stuff. But I think for the people who enjoy like those goofy ass, stupid fucking movies, like this was perfect because I've never seen anything done like this before as far as like a trippy fucking slasher movie. You know what I mean? So it was something different. And I think those types of people, those types of genre fans, like, would have fun watching it.
It put me in the mind of the movie Shrooms. Like it kind of gave
Yeah,
me that effect.
exactly, dude. Exactly.
So so if you like the movie Shrooms, then this is a great 20 minutes out of your life
Right.
that you're probably gonna like.
Right.
So
Just kind of like
um,
just a wacky tale. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like this weird slasher film. Like, yeah, it was cool, man.
So Chris, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's all the questions I had. So I'm good.
All right. Real quick, I think we've got a couple of minutes, correct?
Yeah.
Um, John, I want you to go ahead and tell the story of Carve real
All right.
quick.
Yeah. So Carve was when Taylor had said that this is technically my second movie. He was right. I made uh, a found footage film called Carve, that was based in the Maine woods, and it was just basically found footage. We filmed it all on a tablet, and it was improvised. Just a couple of pages I wrote down that I wanted to do. So super, not even $100, basically nothing, and a bunch of friends going out in the woods drinking and putting together this slasher movie. And it kind of just that's who the name of the character was Eli Crane, but he looked just like Henry Guild. And so that was kind of the idea that sparked it. Um, so technically this was my second film, but the first one I've never really shown anybody. It was before I even started New England Home of Horror. Um, but it was kind of the introduction to me to keep writing and create more stories. So it kind of led to everything that's going on now. It led to Worm, and now Worm's leading to Devils Are We, and that's the whole point. You want to try to get better as a filmmaker, better as a writer, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Cool. So I think we should take a vote. Whoever watches this should comment and say we want to see Carve. We want to see it.
All right, if people want to see Carve, we'll put it out.
We all do.
We'll put it
Yeah,
out.
we Chris and I neither one have seen this movie. John's hiding behind it, saying it's terrible, blah blah blah. I want to see it. It's a found footage of a bunch of dumb kids in the woods or something like that. I want to watch it.
All right,
So
we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the thing. All right. So we've got Worm coming out tomorrow, which is
Stay indoors and maintain protective measures until notified by the media or public safety. Stay tuned for further instructions.
sorry, technical difficulties. So what I was saying is that we do have Worm coming out tomorrow, January 20th, 2023. It's a vintage release. Check the candy. We do have Devils Are We coming out very, very soon. I say we, it's mainly John. It's all John, actually. But it is going to be coming to possibly Check the Candy. We're not entirely sure just yet, but we do have a couple of new podcasts coming out too. We're going to do, what got us into horror. We're going to do a really killer Valentine's Day one. We've got all kinds of different topics that we're going to touch base on. We're also really excited about bringing in people from the community as well and interviewing them and stuff like that. So is there anything else you guys would like to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys wanting to talk Worm. When I made it, we put it out and I never really got to sit down and talk about it too much with anybody. So I appreciate you guys wanted to talk about it, asking questions, and now I get to move on. Thank God. No, pretty amped that I got to talk about it. It's still, like I said, it holds a special place in my heart. Henry Guild will always be part of me, so that's awesome. I'm getting emotional.
How sweet. Look at that.
Yeah, no,
I love it.
It was cool. I loved it, and I'm really excited for Devils Are We. I've been working really hard on this project, and hopefully it's better than Worm.
Hell yeah. We are very excited about that. I think we're all going to do a screening of it, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Definitely.
Chris, anything you want to say?
I'm pumped for the new one, man. I've been wanting to see this for months now. Can't wait to see it fully done.
Yeah. You guys have kind of been there through the whole process. You know how much I've filmed over the weekends and over the weeks, and how much editing I've been doing. And it is, at the same time doing all the editing and doing all this content with you guys. It's been fun, so I'm excited.
Good. All right. Well, that's it for Worm. Behind the scenes, a little fun interview with John. I'm Taylor, John, Chris. We are fucking out of here. We're going to do another one tonight, hopefully. So good night, guys.